Welcome to the Road is Dead podcast. I'm your host, Rob Curtis. Here joining me in the studio is
Leah.
And remotely from the great state of Michigan, we have
Tim Strelecki, all the way out here in Wyoming, Michigan.
Wyoming, Michigan. It's what it feels like when you're out there, I'll tell you, man. It's amazing they actually have civilization out there. It's gorgeous. I love being out there.
Yeah.
My wife and I lived in Michigan right after the turn of the century. Right when we got married. What is it weird to say that? I mean, we're Gen X.
I mean,
it seems normal to say that.
Not weird to me. The millennials and the Zers might be like, "What the hell is he talking about?"
Like, you mean the odds?
You know, it's like if you just showed them a rotary phone and said, "What's this?" They'd be like, "I don't know."
Yeah. Turn of the century. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. We lived out in outside of Detroit before it collapsed, and just gorgeous. I mean, we made the agreement then that if we ever could live there, like there was a job and everything else, that we would, because it's so nice up there.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I know you said at one point, Tim, that you would think about relocating there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all the times that I've come to Michigan for whatever it is that I'm racing, whether it's Barry-Roubaix or some other races, I've always loved, like, Western Michigan is beautiful, just on the other side of the lake from us, and it's always nice to come here. But then I have the conversation with Darcy, like, we get the bug and it's like, let's move there, and then it's like, but do we want to be any colder than we already are?
Right.
No.
That's the only problem. It's just a few little latitude lines north of even Chicago.
Yeah, and it's even funnier when you look at, like, the weather that we get in the Chicagoland area, like if it comes through and we happen to get something, by the time it moves over the lake and hits Western Michigan, it just beats the hell out of Western Michigan. Yeah. I'm just like, I don't want any part of that.
I went to high school. I lived in central New York in high school, and it would keep going and keep picking it up as it crossed all the lakes.
Yeah.
And we would get lake effect snow like nobody's business. There was one night in high school we got 4 feet overnight.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Like
and
Buffalo, Albany, they all get pounded.
Yep. Yeah, so Buffalo would get hit,
yeah.
Rochester, and then it would be us in Syracuse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and when we had school the next day.
It makes for a beautiful spring.
Yeah. What was always interesting, too, is that the piles of snow get so deep in, like, the large parking lots that there were cars that would disappear under the piles and get rediscovered in June to July.
When it
would usually be like the 4th of July weekend by the time it fully got down to almost gone.
It's crazy, right?
I don't think that happens as much anymore. It doesn't seem like the world's getting as much, or our world that we know is not getting as much snow as it used to, but things go in cycles. We'll see.
If I were a kid, I'd be out there with a little spade, just digging little tunnels throughout.
I had that night that we got the 4 feet, we had a very long driveway. We were kind of out in the country, and the whole landscape, when you looked outside, was just drifted.
Oh, wow.
So there was no contour to anything. You couldn't tell where anything was.
Mm-hmm.
My car was parked at the end of the driveway, and so I spent a couple hours shoveling. And to find my car, I had to when I got around where I thought it was, I had to take a yellow broom. I only say yellow for this one key thing, but I had to smack it through the drift to try to find where my car was. I ended up hitting the bumper, and it left a big yellow mark on it that was there until the day I sold that car.
Found it.
Which was like 8 years later. But anyway,
yeah.
But Julie and I always like to say Michigan is like the most Midwestern state. Like, it is the best of all the Midwesternness. It's like, it's not, I don't know. Out of all of them, it's like the beauty of it is the most Midwestern. It's like a beautiful, beautiful state. I love it.
Yeah, it really is.
But so you're up there already because of Barry, obviously. Barry-Roubaix is coming up. Now, Barry-Roubaix, I don't know if it's the largest, but one of the largest gravel races around, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't know about those big ones they have in Kansas and all those, whatever.
I think it's bigger than Unbound.
Dirty Unbounds or whatever.
Yeah.
They call them now. Is that what? Anyway. Yeah, something like that. So you're already out there. You're doing some recon.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to. Let's not get into Barry yet. I guess. Let's do a quick recap of Rough Road because we did do Rough Road this last weekend.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Leah, do you want to go first? Why don't you go first?
I really have nothing to say. I did not. I was not in a good headspace. I was kind of not feeling overwhelmingly good. I started the morning not feeling super good. Something was going on in my stomach, and I raced pretty hard the first hour, and then I just completely just kind of sat up and rode my bike and tried to figure out what was going on. I didn't know if it was my body, my head. Yeah, I've been struggling with a lot of stuff this year in general. So just kind of just rode the course. It was sloppy. I had to stop at least once and completely just clean off my glasses. I tried riding without them. I couldn't do that because I was getting all the gravel in my eyes. And,
Imagine that with descent.
and I found enjoyment on the day. The conditions didn't bother me. The sloppiness of everything was kind of amusing, actually. I enjoyed watching everybody else around me pedaling through it, and some people were struggling and some people looked like they were having good days, and I just enjoyed being there. I enjoyed the energy and the vibe around it. It just, like, I personally was just really not into it that day, and it had nothing to do with the event or the race or anything. It was just my own shit. So I rolled across the line feeling pretty happy and content with having done it. I battled some things because there was a time where I just kind of wanted to stop pedaling my bike and get off and just be like, I'm going to go sit at the corner with this corner guard person and just wave at people and be happy and not be out here trying to pedal fast because I just wasn't in the mood for it.
Mm.
This is very not Leah. So I've been having to do a lot of self-analysis to figure out what's going on for me, but that's my day.
Normally, I would tell you to shake it off, but I mean, you had the same kind of thing at Dirty South. You weren't happy there, and so it's. I get it.
It's something just kind of consistent under the surface that's been kind of hanging with me since the beginning of the year, and I'm not really sure what's going on, but anyway,
Physically, you mean, right? Within
physically
like...
and mentally. And I don't know, I had a really, really, really big year last year. I counted my USAC races alone, not counting non-USAC. I raced 51 USAC races across the year. So it was more than that, probably a little bit closer to 60, which, considering my advanced age, that was a lot. And everything seemed to be going great until around the beginning of November. And then things just kind of went sideways, and I thought it was this thing, and then I thought it was that thing, and I thought it was, some temporary thing because I was dealing with a health little blip back then. It just seems to be, in the past now. And then, but I've just never really felt like I rebounded. So I don't know if I'm just needing a year off from racing and just need to go ride my bike and have fun, because I've gone on rides with friends. I enjoyed team camp in Arizona. I had a blast riding with everybody. I went on a group ride with the Tower Racing guys a couple Saturdays ago, and I had a blast. And I was just like, maybe that's where I need to find my bliss for a little while, is not towing a line for a bit. So, yeah. But I think
the older you get, the less races you have to do, especially if you want to do if you want to do well in them.
Yeah.
Like doing your little bit of spring gravel, then doing an entire road season, and then having done a full cross season that you haven't done in years.
Yeah.
You taped the throttle on in the beginning of the year and didn't let off, and you're paying for it now.
Yeah, I kind of suspect that's kind of what's going on, but that's okay. I have so many other fun things I can do.
Yeah.
It's just, I feel a sense of guilt because all my teammates are like, "Are you racing this? Are you racing that? And you're racing that?" And I'm just like, I don't know if I really want to. Can I? Yes. Do I want to? Undecided.
You have to do what you feel is right for you.
So
yeah.
I kind of wanted to step back to what you said there, Tim. Why do you feel the older you get, the less, I don't know how you phrased it, the less racing you have to do or need to do?
Well, I don't.
And why is that?
I mean, it depends on the way you look at things. I'll give you, like, from my perspective, like I just want to race all year, all the time, every bike, right? That's what you
Yeah.
want to do. That's what your brain is telling you to do. That's what you're built to do. That's what your mentality tells you to do. But reality is, all the decades you've put in prior to the year you're in are catching up with you in some way, shape, or form. You don't have the ability to recovery like you did when you were in your, if you're 50, like in your early 40s or your late 30s. You don't have that ability to
Yeah.
recover. And to just try to just keep building and building and building and pouring it on and pouring it on and pouring it on, and maybe getting a result here or getting a result there or not performing, you have to find a balance in it. And if you want to do
Mm.
well in the races that you want to do, race less,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're just, although racing feels good and it does good for your mentality, and if you do well, it feels even better. You're only digging yourself in a hole if you don't take time away.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
professionals do it. They race gigantic blocks. They race 6 weeks in a row and take, 6 weeks off, depending on what their goal is.
Right.
And then, if you're not a goal oriented or goal setting person, such as myself, rarely do I ever set goals. I just say I want to race, but
Yeah.
I leave it at that. So then if I'm approaching an event that I want to do and I don't feel well or I feel tired, it's easier for me to pull out because there's no goal attached to it.
Right.
Whereas if I train for 2 years to race cross nationals and it comes up and it's like, I don't want to do it, or I go in with a bad attitude and it doesn't turn out the way it does or the way it did, I'm devastated. I'd rather
Yeah.
not set a lot of goals and just kind of take it like race to race, no matter what the discipline is. That way,
Hmm.
if I'm feeling sluggish or in a rut or if I've overtrained myself, I can easily just be like, no, I'm going to sit this one out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like I've got enough decades of racing and in me and experience in me and through my own coaching, through coaching I've had through other people, to know like what the warning signs are when the lights are starting to go out and you need to back off. So if you need to just cruise around with your homies and have fun that way, do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That may be the plan, but yeah,
The start
that
line's
all
always going to
fits. It
be
makes
there.
sense.
the
Oh
start
yeah,
the start line's always going to
100%.
be there.
Unless it's a road race.
That's true. In our
It's true.
area.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, but that's just not the way I see it. Like, the thing I've come to realize, and I think I heard it, I don't know who I heard it from, but it's the older you get, the harder it is to, how do they phrase it? It's like the older you get, the more you want to do better than you did when you were younger, just because the timeline is short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The window is closing essentially. So
Yeah.
you're putting more pressure on yourself to do better and perform better and train harder, and in the end, you just end up blowing yourself to bits because
Yeah.
you're putting
Yeah.
so much physical and mental pressure on yourself to do well in the time you have left that
That because
you're just boom.
what you just said, that was huge.
Yeah.
That nails really the big struggle because I feel like everything is just getting narrow. And I just
Yeah.
turned 57 and I'm just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
My days are numbered.
Yeah.
When's the hammer gonna when's the axe gonna fall and be like, you're done.
But it's at the same time,
Well,
it's scary. It's scary to think that, especially
Yeah.
it
if
can't.
that's what you identify as. Like
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
like I'm nothing but a bike racer. When that window closes on me, what the hell am I going to do? Am I just going to throw a bunch of things at the wall and see if they stick, and just go with the one that does? I don't know. I have no idea, and it frightens the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, no, it's what was I going to say on that? Oh no, it's so that actually kind of sums up kind of how I've been feeling too, because I've been having what I would call successes for me, for where I've been, and it's a lot of it's been just what you were talking about. Some of it also, I've been trying to explain it to others. It's kind of why I've been doing a lot of work on the Model A, my car that I've got. And it's because it's not going to be any easier to do the work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And this is the way I've been phrasing it. I've been saying, to go along with what you said after Dirty South, or what Kenny was telling you, and it's that whole Jimmy Carr thing of you in 20 years would give absolutely anything to come back to where you are right now
and feel as good
and
as
feel
you
as
do
good as you
today.
do now.
Yeah.
And that has been rolling in my head, and that's why, every night when I get home, if I'm sitting there and I've already eaten dinner or whatever and kind of sitting around just hanging out watching TV or looking at my phone or whatever, I just go, I got like 3 hours I can kill. Let me go do something. Let me go work on that car.
Yeah.
And because it's not going to be any easier to get underneath it in a week, and it's not going to be any easier to get any of the work done. And so I've been doing that kind of on the riding and training kind of thing. And I've been having some limited success. As you guys know, I've been building every year and getting a little better every year. I know me though, and I know in the back of my head, at some point I'm going to hit a wall, or at some point I'm going to put in what I think is the right training, and I'm not going to get the result that I want, or it's not going to go the way that I really want it to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to get myself prepared enough for that instance to not let it completely derail me, because I have this ability in my head to just be like, well, what did I expect? And then get depressed about it and not want to go out and ride. And what's the point? And I don't need to get as many miles. In other words, like right now, it's still a little competition. Hey, I get to the end of the year and I can get more miles than I got last year.
Yeah.
Let me work on that, and that'll get me out of the door a little bit more frequently.
Yeah.
At some point, I'm not going to be able to do that. At some point, I'm going to be either hitting the same or dropping.
Yeah.
And that's that motivation that I think if I ran into that situation where I'm not getting the result that I want, it would definitely derail me psychologically more so.
Oh, yeah.
And to your point of, that's why I was asking about the whole, what do you mean when you get older? Whether or not I was trying to get at whether or not it was a physical and or a psychological thing. And I think in your answer, the way that you phrased it, what I got out of it is it's both.
It's definitely
in essence.
both. It's definitely both, because you age, you age, and you naturally, everything declines as you age. Your strength, your power, everything just declines. Your VO2 max declines naturally. Everything declines. So when that stuff declines, your physical performance goes down, right? So
My wife would disagree.
And when your physical performance goes down in sport, it's hard to deal with and it's hard to accept. And I've seen some of that happen to myself personally within the last couple of years. And it's a hard pill to swallow, because in my mind, I belong in the front of the race. But when the front of the race is half my age or more, the reality is that you're riding where you belong.
Right.
You've just had an ability over the years to put in the work, to put yourself,
to overcompensate,
put yourself in the front of the race. Now, I have to work harder than probably 3/4 of the people that are up at the front, because I'm a little older. But it's just being okay with being where you're currently at. And I'm learning that it is what it is when you age. And everyone that's young that's listening to this, you're going to get there one day. You're going to get there, and you're going to experience the things that the three of us are talking about. Now, we're talking about these things, and hopefully educating our young competitive audience to be aware of these things, if they're not burnt out in another 5 years trying to, replicate all the professionals in sport, which they have no business doing, in my opinion. It's just, the more each day passes, and as I train and race more, as I get older, the more I'm able to, I feel, come to terms with having a setback, or not performing, like you were saying, Rob, not performing to the expectation that I wanted to in a certain event. And I think that's happened to me a lot over the last couple of years. And what I've learned from it is, within whatever you deem as a, quote unquote failure because you didn't get the result you wanted, go in there, sit down by yourself for a little bit, for half hour and think about the entire event, the good and the bad. And if at the end of that you come out with more good than bad, you've won. Doesn't matter what your
Yeah.
Right.
doesn't matter what your result is on paper. You've won if you've overcome a lot of bad things. Like for me, Melting Man, I was terrible, but I hung in there because I knew that if I quit or if I just cut the course short, I would have I would have beat myself up. I'd still be beating
Yeah.
myself up for that. So
Yeah.
you have to find the little victories within what you may deem as a setback. And
Yeah.
that's it.
It's definitely something to keep in mind, for sure.
I know,
I know.
just
If
this
you
is for
notice,
young and old people.
yeah, and I was going to say, if you notice, getting back to where you're saying the 20 and 30-year-olds, giving them the warning that they're going to be there. I think the difference is like in your 20s, early on, you kind of have this like, I don't know where the roof of this is. Like, I'm going to keep pushing and keep
Oh, yeah.
training. I don't know where the top of this mountain is. And so you just have this feeling that you always have the ability to go explore higher. And there comes a point, we all hit it, and I don't know that some can put their finger on it, others can't, where it dawns on you slowly, oh, I'm not in that mode anymore. I definitely crossed the summit. Now it's, how can I, now that I know where those tops and bottoms are, how can I more effectively be aware of where I'm at between them
Yes.
and how to get back there, or what is working and impacting me to get, closer to where that peak was. And that's where you see, like, a lot of, in our opinion, racers in the last 20 years have gotten much better in their 30s, mid 30s, even late 30s. At least in the pro ranks, you see these guys that are maybe even doing less training and riding better than they've ever ridden. And I think we would all attest, you get to know your body way better, and you get to know what starts to work for you, what doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
And you're able to make better use of the time that you do have out there. And I think it's because of the forced perspective that getting over that peak, or starting to realize, hey, I'm not there anymore. It's not like I can keep exploring and the sky's the limit. Now I've got a defined street that I'm on.
Yeah.
And now it's a matter of figuring out where I can take that street.
Yeah. And I think athletes that are in their mid 30s and over, especially, if they're at a very high level, they understand that it's okay to rest.
Yeah.
The adaptations aren't made through continual training. Your adaptations are made when you're docile and doing nothing.
When you're recovering. Yeah.
But there's a fine.
That's why
there's a fine line. You don't want to just not do anything, and they all know that, but they're not afraid of it.
You mean it's when it says maintaining on my Garmin that I'm not actually maintaining? Is that what you're trying to imply?
Even if it said detraining, who cares? It's a piece of technology that doesn't know you.
Yeah, it lays the guilt trip on pretty good. That was a good meme you sent me earlier today.
You could wake up feeling like, with all the wearable devices, and I'm guilty of them too, you could wake up feeling like complete crap. And then your wearable says, you're on a peak day. No, no, I'm not. I'm not.
It's done that. Yeah.
I've seen that as well.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you don't know me at all. Why am I wasting my money on you?
I've rolled up to the start of a ride and just feeling like crap, and looked around and go, careful guys, it says I'm peaking.
Yeah. And then conversely too, you could wake up feeling, feeling sluggish, and all signs say you are not well, not recovered, and you have like the greatest day ever.
So that's a good segue to where I assume you're done with your recap. Okay. Good segue into the weekend that I had. So I haven't been doing much riding, and I just haven't had the time during the weeks. And I've been noticing, if you want to use Training Peaks and go by CTL, it says one thing. If you want to use Garmin and you're going by what it says another thing. You go Strava and it's training load and goes by. All of them basically were saying, yeah, you're not doing enough to keep where you want to be. So it's a concern. In the back of my head, though, I know kind of how my body adapts. And I know that if I do a really heavy weekend, and I just ride once or twice during the week. Even if I can get down to up to at least 2 rides during the week, I'll be fine. As a matter of fact, I'll probably be in better shape than I could ever anticipate for that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can I get better by riding more targetedly and more frequently during the week leading up to? Absolutely. I'm not saying that, but it's not the end of the world, I guess is what I'm saying.
You
I
could
know
also
enough
get
about
worse.
myself to know it's not the end of the world. Right.
You could also get
So
worse.
coming into this last weekend, I was kind of like, it's been so cold out. I haven't really been getting outside. Don't want to put the time in on the trainer, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I towed the line. This is the second time I've done rough road, and I'm still kind of learning it. But I towed the line with the intention of doing a race to actually race it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a phrase I used with you guys beforehand. It's like I'm going there to race it. Enough that I was thinking about the wheels and the tires that I was going to run. I only remember there being one gravel segment before the long path all the way back. I totally forgot that there was more than one. When I was, messing around, I think in the last podcast we talked about, I was messing around what wheels I was going to take, whatever. I ended up taking my 55 millimeter deep wheels, and I put 36 millimeter gravel getaways from Challenge on there. That combo, I took it out for one pre-ride test, like shakedown before, I think on Friday or something. And that thing was a rocket ship, an absolute rocket ship. I absolutely adored every second that I was on it. It's fun to ride deep wheels. It really is fun to ride deeper wheels, I should say. So I lined up going, I'm going to race this. Let's see how it goes. Still not pushing to get up near the front, just kind of like, whatever happens, happens. It's still that part of me in the back of my head going, you're going to blow up, you're going to die off, and you're going to beat yourself up. So downplay it. Whenever anybody asks you anything, hey, so, how do you think? I'm just going to ride along and see what happens, Well, that's not what happened when I crossed the line to the point where I actually looked at the gentleman next to me who I knew before the start, and I said, as we roll up to that start, I'm going to give you room to jump in front of me to go over the mat, but I'm quickly going to take off, and that's what I did. I basically, once I hit the mat, we turned and started going over the bridge, and I just started clicking through gears and just started going. And I surfed groups, every group that I could. And that feeling when the group you're in just kind of slows up a little bit and you can see that gap growing to that next group in front. And it was like instantaneous. I would jump out and then bridge that gap. And I kept moving up groups and moving up with riders. It was probably 15 miles before we really got into a solid group of guys that kind of all stuck together and kept riding around the same speed. It was before we hit the gravel, right around when we hit the gravel, the first gravel segment. That gravel was way gnarlier than I remember it. It's not gnarly. I don't want to go on record as saying it's gnarly, but it's gnarlier than I remember.
Chunky.
It had its moments.
Yeah.
The first sector had its moments, and it had a fuck ton of potholes in it. And all the rain that we had the week leading up to it made this like concrete slurry, limestone slurry all over everything. And the second we hit that flying, there's enough wind out there that we're all diving for wheels and we're all trying to get where we want to get out of the wind. And it was in a crosswind, I believe. And so we're all fighting for a wheel, but you can't see shit around the guy in front of you for the most part. And we went flying into that gravel, and it was like, okay, now I got to look for people that don't know how to handle bike on gravel. And then we started hitting all these potholes, and there were freaking bottles everywhere. I mean, there was probably 20. The only people that gone through before us was the USAC men and women. So the two fastest races. And you would think by then, if you're in that race, figure out how to get a bottle to stay on your goddamn bike. Get a decent bottle holder. It's not that hard to figure out. But apparently it happens in every gravel race I've ever been in. The first big potholes and there's bottles everywhere. What were you going to say?
No, it's just it's always going to happen because people don't know how to navigate around potholes. They just slam them. I know they're hard. True. I know they're hard to see when you're in a group and surrounded, and the rider or riders in front of you don't like even, shout it out. They just blast
Yeah.
them. And it's always going to
But you
be,
can still float them, I mean, it's if you catch it last second, you can still get your ass off the saddle, but a lot of people don't.
no.
They'll just case it and go on.
Yeah.
So it was like, and then you're getting a rooster tail of, like I said, that concrete slurry
Yeah.
all over the place. And to Leah's point, couldn't see out of her glasses. I'm in my glasses. I can't see shit without my glasses. So I've just got to make do with it. What was really nice, there's a coating on these new glasses because I broke mine at Dirty South. There's a coating on these new ones to where once all those spots would dry, if I hit it with my glove, it would just fly off. So some coating kept it from sticking and like streaking. So at least that part was nice, but did well. Found a good group, like I said, worked hard, was able to get in a couple positions. It's weird in gravel because it's not road, so you're dealing with people that don't have the kind of, even though they're strong, they don't have the kind of background or experience in racing, so they don't really know what they're doing. And what I mean by that is, like, we got into some heavy crosswinds where an echelon was like perfect, and you could tell the handful of people that have been in actual echelon formations and know how to do them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we're all behind the one or two strong guys that have no clue and are just kind of going from midline in the road over to guttering you, the whole freaking time. So that was a little frustrating, but hey, if you're guttering us, that's one thing. That's a strategic move. I can respect that. But when you don't know what you're doing and you're just kind of flopping all over the road, and that's usually the key thing, is that they're not trying to gutter us, So it's like, hey, if you're not trying to gutter us, then get the fuck over so we can get on your wheel the right way.
Especially if I've been on the front for a bit and I flick you through a couple times and you don't, and I'm like,
oh,
all right,
I'll come. I'll come.
You're all going in the gutter.
Yeah.
Every man for himself.
One guy at one point, I was on his wheel forever, and he was just hanging out there in the right spot, and I went, and I actually said, hey, if you want to come off the front, you just drop straight back. It's all you got to do, and then you come in behind me, and we'll be good. And but so it went well. Got into good positions. We hit the Munn Road or whatever, the long gravel section.
Mine Road.
And I was feeling it. I was feeling good, even though it was really soft and it was draining to go down that, but I was feeling good. And there's we turn on that for the short course. Yeah. So there's a turn there, and coming up to it, it was like uphill going up to it.
Yeah.
And I had dropped the guys that I was with going up to that uphill. So I was like, I had been waiting for that moment, and I was like, all right, here we go. Turned, and I was like, now I'm into the wind. It's full headwind heading north, and I can get some food in me, and I can just kind of just keep a steady pace and just keep it going. So I did just that. It was like 6 miles north, and I'm going through the whole thing and just doing my own thing, tapping out my rhythm and trying to recover a little and also eat and drink. And we're almost to the end of it. And I guess I didn't look around me or anything and hadn't. And one of my buddies comes riding up right next to me out of nowhere, scared the hell out of me. And he goes, you don't have to pull the whole way. Why don't you jump in? So he comes out around in front. I was like, all right, cool. I didn't know he was there. As he comes around me, I go to get on his wheel. There's another guy on his wheel. And I'm like, okay, I don't know where the hell he came from. I turn around and I look, there's like 30 guys. So I had been pulling this whole group the whole way into the headwind. And I was just kind of taking my time and doing the eating and drinking, and I wasn't really dumping myself or anything. So in my head, I went, okay, that's a good sign. That's a good sign that none of these guys felt the need to come around me. So went well from there, did everything we needed to do. We got onto the path, and we are literally nose to asshole on that path, and going way too fast on it. And there's just debris everywhere, chuck holes, everything. And I'm thinking, if we're riding this at this speed that close, at least these guys know what they're doing, kind of like over on the gravel road. Nope. Sure enough, a couple guys stacked it, and we're kind of splayed out. And at that point, I was like, all right, I'm going to ride my own speed on this and at least get a clear view of what's coming up ahead. So did that mostly. Ended up making a wrong turn towards the end, had to double back and get back on the path. and finished it out strong. And it was strong enough that Kenny went nuts as I was coming in, going, "Oh, hello, here's Rob," and Julie had to sprint back to the start finish and to get a picture because she was still waiting, thinking it was going to be another half hour, 45 minutes for me to show up at least. So I got a great time for me. I finished in the top 30.
Nice.
Out of 160 some odd racers in the short course. So
awesome.
It felt like a result that I felt good about. I felt like I did great, and it was very reassuring for me. So
wonderful.
A great experience
Good job.
for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I've got a good head of steam coming into this weekend, which is going to be Barry-Roubaix, which is why you are already up there in Michigan checking it out.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of, for myself, I'll just lead into what I'm planning. And it's for myself, I'm planning on trying to do something similar in terms of wanting to race it. In other words, not holding back because it's only 36 miles. It's only a couple hours on the bike. And even if I completely implode, then at least I know for the future. And I know what I can train for in the future. So I held back way too much last year, but I got a 2 hour 40 minute, I want to say. Last year, I was riding with a good friend who's done Barry a ton of times, who's very evenly matched with me, Andy Sauter, if you know him. And he's been turning times in the 220s, 230s in that range. And I was like, I think I can get to 220. And that's what I was thinking in my head. I was riding with him, and he's like, dude, you're riding faster than I rode my fastest year doing it. And I was trying to break 2 hours that fastest year, and I came within a couple minutes of doing that. He goes, you can break 2 hours. So stretch goal under 2 hours. Realistically, 215, 220 is where I'm thinking. So that is my goal.
Dry course? Wet course?
Dry course, yes. Okay, so let's go into your intel on what the course looks like, because people will be listening to this on their way up there.
As of today, it was muddy. It was sandy. It was muddy. It was very wet. The climbs were almost all seated, because if you got out, you'd spin because of the mud. Shaw Road is muddy and sandy. A lot of like harsh hits if you're not aware that they're there.
Now, Shaw is only on the 100K?
Shaw is on the
and 100 mile.
It's on the 100 mile and 100K. I guess for the 36 and the 18, you guys don't do them. So if you're doing the 36 or the 18, you don't have to worry about it. But Shaw Road is a long stretch of sandy, 2-track seasonal road. It's pretty beat up. And then everybody knows Sega Road because I think Sega Road is on all of them. Is on all the distances, and Sega Road it's pretty beat up right now. Not any like huge standing water puddles as in years prior, but there are. I don't mean puddles because there's puddles, but there's not like lakes that you have to ride through. The sand is there. It's compact just because it's wet, but it still bogs you down. And there's long stretches of it, not just like in sand, out of sand, like you're in it for quite a while. But yeah, it was different than any conditions I ever have ridden here. I only rode 24 miles of the 62 mile because I just got sick of the noises my bike was making, and I was fearful I was going to break my equipment. So I found a bailout route to get me back to town. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a race. If it doesn't get sunny, and the wind doesn't pick up to dry things out, it's still going to stay. It's still going to stay pretty soft. I mean, it'll dry up a little bit and firm up a little bit because, they're dirt roads, but there's still traffic on them, so they'll compact all that stuff down. So it may get a little faster, but I do think there's still going to be some muddy, slippery spots. And I think it's going to be whoever can take care of their equipment the best. Will
Interesting.
Will serve well because there will be mechanicals. I do feel there will be some mechanicals. You know, my chain.
I can see that. I know
my chain fell off twice today, and I had a hard time
you're
getting it.
not
Huh?
you're not running a chain guard
No,
or chain protector.
I have one, but
chain,
I don't have it on currently.
chain fall device.
But I also know.
Why do you think it fell out? Why do you think your chain fell off?
Well, I think for two reasons. A couple reasons. Number one, I don't have a chain keeper on currently. Number two, the sand, grit, mud, and every other element just wore the shit out of my chain. I didn't have wet lube on. So saying that, don't even bother bringing your wax chain. Leave your wax chain at home. Throw it in the garbage. No, don't throw it in the garbage, but go get yourself some wet.
I'm going to go on record as saying I'm bringing a wax chain.
Good luck. Throw that in the garbage
Yeah,
when you're
I
done.
know. I've only got 36 miles.
So what?
I get 2 hours.
Why don't you save your wax chain? Dude, I'm telling you, if the conditions are what they are today for race day, you're not going to break 2 hours. I'll tell you that now.
Okay, that's fine.
I won't.
That's fine.
I don't want to break your heart, but I'll tell you.
No, it's not going to. I don't honestly expect that. That was truly a stretch goal.
I would hope and pray that you do, and if you do, that's fantastic. But yeah, it's just one of those races. It's like combining, speaking in terms of cyclocross. Like if you went to Montrose and raced in the sand, but you also had the mud, and we've all
had mud on the hill.
The locals that have done Montrose know what that does to your bike. It's that. It's not the packing mud, the heavy weigh your bike down mud, but it sticks and it cakes and it gets in all the little places and gunks up your derailleur, gunks up your cassettes, gunks up your cranks, your pedals, everything. Like it's there. It's more so the sand. It's just the sand.
I just added to my packing list a little thing of chain lube to throw in my saddlebag.
Yep. Bring a jar of Strelecki stuff and you're good.
Strelecki stuff.
Yeah, that's what I call it. But yeah,
I will say there 1 year after Sager, it was so bad. I ended up spraying down my drivetrain with a water bottle just to get the sand off of it.
Funny you said that. I came off of Shaw Road. Or before I came off of Shaw Road, like I came off and I turned. My chain had dropped twice on Shaw, so I was like, all right, what's going on? So I turned off of Shaw, and I'm like, wait a minute. Started climbing. I turned back around, went to the exit of Shaw. There's a gigantic lake. I put my bike by that and I just took my glove off and was like scooping water on my drivetrain to kind of hose it off. And then it started making even worse noises as I started climbing. And I'm like, oh, this is so...
It always makes you feel better.
Yeah, I was like, no, this sounds even worse. So once I did the climb and, you know, you have a long asphalt descent, you're on asphalt for quite a while between Shaw Road and Sager Road. When I was on an asphalt descent, I took my water bottle and I was like, and I was spraying all my stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute. A sugary bottle of stuff. It's not good to put on your drivetrain.
Yeah, agreed.
But so yeah, don't be like me and don't do that. I would say if anything, carry an extra bottle with just water in it. And
that's actually what I'm going to do now.
Yeah.
While we were sitting there talking, I was thinking. I think I've used a hydration pack there before, and I didn't use one this last weekend. I was fine with it without using one. Using just bottles. I don't care if I eat a little bit of grit.
Yeah.
But there you're either climbing or descending. So getting your hands off the bars for long stretches is kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to go back to using a backpack.
Yeah.
But I was thinking I'm just going to bring one bottle. It's just water.
Yeah.
And it'll be backup water or so I can spray down my drivetrain if I need to.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, all right, I could do a hydro pack. I could do one bottle of, hydro pack of nutrition, a bottle of nutrition, and then one bottle just for your glasses, for whatever else, just to keep you rolling.
Now, temp wise, what are we looking at now? It's going to get up to 60 or something like that, but it's probably going to be after all the racing's done.
Race day is complete abundant sunshine and almost 60 degrees. It's a lot better than it is today.
From the start?
No, the start will be... Well, we started... 62 starts at 11. What time do you start? What time does it...
We started at 11.
We
or
start
10.
at 10.
Okay, so we'll probably be... It'll be above 40, for sure, I think.
Let's see. The hourly should go out that far now. Saturday at 10 a.m. right now, it's saying 42.
Yeah. So
that's... up to 50 within... 2 hours, which is when I'm supposed to be done. So I'll be racing in the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
I would say however many layers you're thinking about putting on, put on one less.
One less. So I did that this last weekend,
Mhm.
and I was freezing cold at the start, and
Yeah.
I was fine within the first 5 miles,
Yeah.
which I knew. So
Especially here, rough road. Rough road for the first hour and a half. You're just
it's
exposed.
flat.
You're just exposed, and here you're climbing, but your descents are cold. So
Yeah.
it's a fine balance,
Mm-hmm.
But I don't anticipate that the course will be in the same shape race day as it was today. Like I didn't see any other tire tracks other than car tracks, like bike tracks, until I pulled off like 5 miles before I said I'm done with this. But it'll get driven in through cars.
Yeah.
It'll
A lot
get
of pre-riders.
it'll get warmer, pre-riders, but today there was like how sometimes you can just kind of, when you're by yourself, you can surf and look for like the hard line so you can remember those race day. There was none of that.
Yeah.
There was none of that.
It's all the same.
All same or worse.
Yeah.
So Friday looks like full sun and
good.
around 10-mile-an-hour winds in the middle of the day.
That'll help out.
For tomorrow. So I'm going to pre-ride. I know a little bit,
Yeah.
at least get a 10 or 15 miler in just
Yeah.
to get some time in. You're going to do that, whatever pre-ride they got going?
Maybe. There's a 4:30, 18 mile. I don't know that I want to do 18 miles. I don't know.
The
But
Ian Boswell ride.
Is that what it is?
I think so.
If we get out there at a good time to jump into that, and I might do that.
From what I remember last year, it's so late if you're waiting for that ride, I think.
Yeah.
Because we get there way earlier.
I want to be.
At least I'm planning on it.
4:00. I want to be here with my feet up, with food in my
I was going to
hand.
say, you're going to be in bed at 4, aren't you?
I'm not that old, but yes. Yes, I will have.
I rest my case.
I will have eaten dinner by then, and I won't be snoring. No. Yeah. I mean, we're like 45 minutes away from Hastings, so further north.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't expect today's conditions to exist on Saturday, and if they do, I know what I'm in for. The only thing I'm contemplating is maybe going to a 42 in the rear, because I have that very limited space between my seat tube and my tire, and I looked down, and right around the bottom bracket it had caked up. I mean, I got it to shake off, but I'm just like, maybe I'll go to 42 for a little more clearance.
Dude, it took me a couple seconds to realize you were talking about tire size. I was sitting there trying to figure out what gearing option you were running with a 42.
I'm done panic swapping with that.
That's why I was about to say, don't panic swap.
No. It was hard though, because, but both of the 47s felt really good, and especially those seasonal roads. There's a lot of just like opportunity to bam and slam and hit your rim. So the extra volume felt really good. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll play around with it, but I felt good with what I have currently. I might just leave it.
Yeah.
All right. So you're looking at 47 to 45-ish in that range. What are you running?
Current plan now is 38 Pathfinders.
And I'm on deck for 40s. I may throw my 38s on those 55s into the car just in case. But like in case I do a pre-ride and something happens. I don't anticipate switching to them, but you never know.
Yeah, backup it's always good to have a backup no matter what it is. And if it's something you're comfortable with and know how it rides, then go for it. But having a backup is better than not.
Spouses tend to frown on having a backup, but
you would know.
For them. How would I know? What does that mean?
I don't know.
Anyway.
You just said it.
It was a joke. Anything else we got to cover on Barry or?
Well, there's a cyclocross race coming up this
weekend.
Yes,
absolutely. So we got Screw City Cyclocross out in Rockford. Reg is still open. Check it out on Bike Forums. Not Bike Forums. Why did I say Bike Forums?
Reg.
Bike Reg. Jesus.
You were on Bike Forums earlier, just giving people business about how the industry's going.
I was on Bike Forums a little bit earlier. I never go out there, so I got it on the brain, I guess. But yeah, go out to Biker Edge, go ahead and register. Cyclocross race on Sunday. If you're doing the drive back from Barrie after racing on Saturday, then you should have time to head out to Rockford the next day and race cross. It's good fun. There's decent turnout, although I will say we did get confirmation that in the very specific race that Jim was in, there were only 3 finishers. So, he did end up on the podium. So we love you, Jimmy.
I believe Anthony is planning to race. So,
That should be enough reason for anybody else to want to go.
So people need to go out and race with Anthony.
So that's where I it is what it is with Barry, and my wife turns this into a vacation, which I cannot argue about. So unfortunately, I won't be back on Sunday for the whole cross race, but I would die to race cross right now. So I would really enjoy that. So get out there and check out Screw City Cyclocross. Anything else that we need to cover? Obviously, other than stock up on some buttonhole chamois cream, go and talk to your local bicycle retailer and ask for it by name. I actually had that. One of the listeners went into a shop and asked for it by name, and the shop called yesterday afternoon. So they're getting a few jars and some samples to try out, and we're going to get them on board. So you never know. Shops want to carry what you want. They would like to see you. So, and you're not necessarily going to get a better deal on this anywhere else than in your local shop, because I do go to great lengths to make sure that that's the case. And if it's not the case, please let me know. But if you have any questions, concerns, well, not on the chamois cream, you shouldn't have any questions. It goes where you think it goes. And
there are no tariffs on the chamois cream.
There are no tariffs. It's made in the U.S. So I did get a lot of questions about the whole tariff thing from last week. So luckily, apparently, some of that's getting reversed right now. Whatever. Give it another week and it will change to something else. But yeah, if you have any questions in terms of what you would like to hear us answer and or respond about or cover or just ask, whatever, send it to us at roadisdead, all one word, roadisdead, @gmail.com. Go pick yourself up some buttonhole chamois cream. And apart from that, enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride. Enjoy the weekend.